me? I'm not used to using a microphone. Can you all hear me all right? Good, because I've got a very quiet voice. So it's probably a good thing I have a microphone. It's just different. Anyhow, my name is John Mercer. I'm the treasurer of the Westchester Bird Club. The Westchester Bird Club meets in Westchester, but it covers pretty much all of Chester County. President of the club is a Phoenixville native, so we cover this area. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about the common birds of Chester County. I'm not gearing this to all the birds because some are like 200 species of birds come through, and you guys don't want to be here till midnight. So I've cut it down to the common birds and gearing this to the beginners. So I'm going to try to help you identify some different kinds of birds, things like that. Too loud? Okay. All right, let's start with some feeder birds. A very common bird you're all probably very familiar with is the northern cardinal, the male here on the left, female on the right. Notice the male is brightly colored, the female is very plain. This is, in birding birds, is called sexual dimorphism. Normally, when birds are sexually dimorphic, the male is colorful, and it's logical adaptation. The male is colorful because once he's done his job, he's somewhat expendable. Okay, so, but the female, she's got to lay the eggs and she's got to raise the babies. Now, the male cardinal will help feed the first batch of babies while the female is sitting on a second batch of eggs. The cardinal is an eastern bird. If you look at maps, it does not occur on the other side of the Rocky Mountains. So people from California are all excited when they come see our cardinals, and we kind of say, no, it's just a cardinal. Another sexually dimorphic bird, and a feeder bird. You can tell with feeder birds because look at the bill. It's a strong triangular bill made for breaking seeds. Okay, so a lot of your feeder birds have that triangular bill. This is the goldfinch, the male on the left, the female on the right. This male hasn't quite finished molting. He will be all yellow with black wings and black forehead eventually. The female is very plain. The interesting thing is, in the wintertime, everyone thinks the male's gone away. Now, he molts and looks exactly like the female. Right, so he changes his colors during the winter, and this time of year, he's changing back. And so he's looking like this right about now. He's all yellow. Real soon here. The goldfinch is one of our late nesters. It nests in June. The reason it does that is because it likes thistle. And it uses the thistle down to line its nest. And it feeds its baby thistle seeds. And so it waits till the thistle is ripe before it goes and starts nesting. Right? If you want to attract this bird, a really good way is to put a thistle feeder up. The only problem is the thistle is invasive, and so they heat it, and so that it won't be viable if it spreads around the yard. And sometimes they overheat it, so if you get a bad batch of thistle, the birds will completely ignore it. And that's a shame because it's expensive. Another very common feeder bird is the house finch. Again, we got the male on the left and the female on the right. You see these little pink birds around, and everybody's got them for feeder. That's the house finch. The really interesting thing about the house finch is that if you look at books from the 1940s and before, they were only west of the Rocky Mountains. In the 1940s, someone brought some caged birds to New York City to sell. They didn't sell, so they released them. If you look at bird books from the 1960s, you see an oval from New York City to Philadelphia, where the house finches are. If you look at maps now, they can cover the entire continental USA. Matter of fact, they estimate it to be 1.4 billion house finches in continental USA. The other interesting thing about them is they're one of the few birds that doesn't eat insects. It doesn't even feed its babies insects. It only eats plant material. It has a look-alike cousin, the purple finch. And most people are the beginning birders, and they got their feeder out there, and they see this beautiful bird come with all this beautiful purple colors. They say, I got a purple finch. Now, odds are good you got a house finch. The purple finch is really a more northern bird. It will come here in the wintertime. It's usually not around here in the summertime. And again, you got the male on the left and the female on the right. Now, to help you out a little bit, I put this slide in here to help you show the differences. People think it's the color, but you can see in this slide that that male house finch has actually got more color than the male purple finch. So depending on the time of year, the color is not a reliable indicator. What you really want to look for is the brown striping on the side. You look for that brown striping on the house finch. The purple finch does not have brown striping. If it has any striping at all, it'll be kind of a purplish color. All right? And the females, however, are much easier. Note the female purple finch, she's got that white eye line, whereas the female house finch, she's just got a plain face. So if you see purpley looking finches in your yard, look for the female first. Until you see the female, you probably is safe to assume you've got house finches on. Another very common feeder bird, again with a big, thick, seed-eating bill, is a song sparrow. The song sparrow is an American native, and it's got 31 subspecies, which is really amazing because they all look exactly the same to me, but they all got that brown striping with that dark central spot. And that's what you want to look for when you look for a song sparrow. Now, the one problem for the poor song sparrow, he's one of the two birds most likely to be parasitized by the brown-headed cowbird. And we'll be visiting the cowbird in just a few minutes. Another common bird is the white-throated sparrow. Now, this white-throated sparrow is here in the wintertime, but not in the summertime. Real soon, in the next 2 weeks, it's going to leave us, go up from the Appalachian Mountains up north and do its nesting up there. Okay. Now, this is not a male and female. You think that maybe it was because we got two differences here. The white-throated sparrow has got two morphs. It's got a white striped morph and a brown striped morph, or a tan striped morph. The white striped male is very aggressive to white striped morphs that sing. And since the female white striped morph sings, he chases her away, and he has to mate with the tan morph. And that leaves the white morph male, all right, white morph female to mate with the tan male. Strange, isn't it? Another one that's here in the wintertime, but not in the summertime, is the dark-eyed junco. They should be leaving or have left. I haven't seen them in a little while. The dark-eyed junco is, the male is a nice solid gray with a light belly. With the female, she's got more brown on her. So that's how you can tell the males and females. They have that nice whitish pink bill too. They are ground nesters. It's surprising how many birds actually are ground nesters. They will nest up again from the Appalachians north up into Canada. But they will put their nest on the ground under a low-hanging branch or a rock that gives them a roof over their nest. Now the house sparrow, you've got a male here, again he's more colorful than the female. The house sparrow is the most widespread wild bird in the world. They were native of Europe and the Middle East, but they've been brought to the United States, they've been brought to South America, they've been brought to Australia, they've been brought to Africa and Asia. They are spread all over because they can live everywhere that's not tundra or really heavily forested area. And this is the guy you see in Phoenixville walking down the road, you know, the little bird you see in Phoenixville. That's the one you're looking at. Okay? Now let's do some chickadees, okay? We've got two different kinds of chickadees. You notice we've got Bob Pearson here. This is the only picture here that's not mine. I had to get Bob to give me this picture because I didn't have a good picture of the black-capped chickadee. Now they look the same probably to most of you, right? Okay, but there is a difference. The Carolina chickadee is the one we have around here. Although, interestingly enough, years back, the dividing line between the Carolina chickadee and the black-capped chickadee went right through Phoenixville. Now it has moved north, it's up around Lehigh. Okay? The problem being, around here now, you can get intergrades or hybrids of the two. And how to tell them apart? They look the same for all practical purposes. The black-cap's hair bigger, he's got a little bit of orange on his side. It's really hard to tell. The thing to look for is at the wings. Note on the black-cap, inverted white hockey stick. Hockey stick from the Carolina. All right, so that's how you look for them. Now, again, pretty much around here, most of these birds you're going to get our Carolina chickadee. Another common bird at your feeder is the tufted titmouse. Like the chickadee, he doesn't have a big, thick, seed-eating bill, so you watch him at your feeder. What he does, he darts in your feeder, he grabs the seed out, takes it up from a branch, and then pecks it open. Okay, the tufted titmouse is a cute little bird with that nice little crest on his head. He's a cavity nester, but he doesn't. You don't often find them using bird houses. At least I have. Another cavity nester, and one that'll come to your feeders, even though he's not really a seed eater, is the white-breasted nuthatch. The white-breasted nuthatch is fascinating in his feeding behavior. He feeds along the trunks of the trees, looking for insects. But he's interesting because he goes up and down. Oftentimes you'll find him coming down. And so he'll hang upside down on your branches. He'll hang upside down on your feeders. He's got a cousin, the red-breasted nuthatch. The red-breasted nuthatch is a winter visitor. He's not here in the summertime. He's only here in winters, and not every winter. This year we had almost none. Last winter they were almost everywhere. Now, how do you tell them apart? The easiest thing to look for is the face. Note the black line through the red-breasted face, and the white-breasted nuthatch's face is all white. And that's the quickest thing to look for when you're looking at your nuthatches. All right, now we've got wrens, common wrens. We've got Carolina wrens and house wrens. Again, the thing to look for, the Carolina wren has got the white eye stripe, and the house wren does not. Now the house wren, he lives up his name because he lives in birdhouses. If you put up bluebird houses or something like that, you're likely to find house wrens in there. And the really kind of sad thing about it is even though he's a little guy, he's a very feisty one, and he will actually go in and destroy the eggs of the bluebird. And not only that, he'll actually kill another bluebird sitting on the eggs and take over the house. Now the Carolina wren is also a cavity nester, but not nearly as aggressive. And I hear more stories about people finding those in their garages or their porches in an old boot or in an upside down flower pot or something rather than in a birdhouse. Another common bird that will come to feeders is the red-winged blackbird. There, as you can see, sexually dimorphic. The male is black with the red wings that gives it its name and the yellow stripe. And the female, she looks like a giant sparrow. And she can fool even the best birders. I've been out some really good birders who say, "What's that bird over there?" That's a female red-winged blackbird. Of course it was. The interesting thing about the blackbirds, you may see some now that have the black, but they only have the yellow. Have you seen that? What that is that red is what sets the hierarchy in the flock. The bigger the red, it means the more dominant you are. And they can adjust their feathers to hide their red. And so if you've got one that's got no red, he's not a very dominant one. He doesn't want to be chased away, so he's covering up his red. And the way they found this out is scientists captured the birds with bright red, and they dyed the red-black, released them back into the flock, and watched them plummet in the social hierarchy. Another bird, common blackbird, and you've probably all seen these big flocks of blackbirds, maybe 100 or 200 yards wide, and miles long, streaming through, and there'll be a mixed bird, blackbirds, and grackles. The grackles, the easiest one to find in that flock, because he's the biggest one, and he's got a tail cut at an angle. And you see, they're called blackbirds, but they're really not black. They're really quite attractive. Lots of different colors if you give them just the right light. Another one in those flocks is the brown-headed cowbird. We got a male here and a juvenile over here. Now the female looks just like the juvenile, except the breast is solid gray, not spotted like this one. The juvenile cowbird, like this one, like I said before, the cowbirds parasitize other birds. What that means is they're parasitic nesters. The cowbird lays its eggs in another bird's nest and leaves, and lets the other bird raise the babies. So if you see a little bird feeding a big baby bird, you're watching a baby cowbird being fed. Now the baby cowbirds, when they're really young, are just as stupid as can be, and they're not afraid of people. This particular bird here was at Longwood Gardens, and I kept having to tell people, don't step on that bird, don't step on that bird. Okay. The male cowbird, he's solid black with a brown head, and he's got this big, thick, seed-eating bill. can see there. As I said, the song sparrow is one of the two most parasitized birds, okay? They will pick any cup nest, but some birds have strategies to avoid them, like the red-winged blackbird. Even though they flock together, they recognize them, and they chase them away so they won't lay their eggs in their nest. Other birds have other strategies. And the last blackbird you'll see in that group is the European starling. In summertime, they're just kind of black with yellow bills, but in the wintertime, they actually get a pretty attractive plumage. This one's got a dark bill, so it's probably a juvenile. The starling is one of the two birds in this country that is not protected by law. And the reason being, as given by its name, it's an invasive from Europe. In the 1890s, a group called of the Shakespeare enthusiasts wanted to bring to the United States some of every species ever mentioned in a Shakespeare play. He mentioned starlings. So they brought 60 starlings and let them go in Central Park. From those 60 starlings, all these starlings you've seen have come about. And there's estimated to be about 300 million starlings in the United States today, all from those 60 starlings. Now, have you ever seen a big flock of starlings and watch them all come together in a tight ball? That's called a murmuration of starlings, and then it's this is a small one. When you see that, look for the birds that are different. Can anyone find a different bird in here? There's one that's different in here. There it is. It's an American kestrel. What happened is, I was watching this, I was at Rose Tree Hawk Watch, watching the kestrel go by, and he decided to take a swipe at one of the starlings. All the other starlings got together, because it's a defense mechanism, just like fish school to avoid the sharks and stuff to make it hard for them to find, so do the starlings. But they just escorted that kestrel right out of the neighborhood. If you have the right kind of bird feeder, you can get ruby-throated hummingbirds. This is the male, and it gives him his name. You see the ruby throat? But note, it's refractive. It's not really red. When he lifts his head up, in this picture it's orange. And if he looks at the right color, it looks black. It's just how the sun reflects off it, okay? If you do this, they are attracted to red. Don't put red food coloring in the sugar water, but instead just make plain sugar water, 1 part sugar to 4 parts water, and put it in the feeder. They'll find it in the feeder. They don't need the red color. In the water, and actually it's bad for them. If you look at the female, she does not have red on the throat. The juveniles look exactly the same as the female. Sometimes the male juvenile may get one little feather that's red, as you can see. But they pretty much look like this until they come back in the spring. If you look at the picture on the right, though, its wings will turn 180 degrees. That allows this bird to hover, fly forward, backwards, up, down, sideways. It's very maneuverable because its wings are so maneuverable. And the really fascinating thing about them is that here's a bird whose heart beats 1,260 times a minute. And yet, twice a year, it travels 600 miles over the Caribbean Sea in 20 hours. Non-stop flying. Amazing, just absolutely amazing what birds can do. All right, let's do some woodpeckers you might find feeders. If you want to track woodpeckers, you put a suet feeder out. They particularly like suet because they are more carnivorous than plant eating, but they will come and eat sunflower seeds and peanut shells and stuff like that. This first one I want to show you is the downy woodpecker. It's our smallest woodpecker and most common woodpecker. It's not much bigger than a sparrow. It's sexually dimorphic only in that the male has a red head and the female does not have a red in the back of the head. It's got a cousin, the hairy woodpecker, that looks exactly the same. You say, how do you tell them apart? Well, I had a friend of mine say, I've got 2 different kinds of woodpeckers. I've got adult woodpeckers and baby woodpeckers in my feeder. I said, no, you've got hairy woodpeckers and downy woodpeckers. The hairy woodpecker is larger than a downy woodpecker. Baby birds are as big as their parents as soon as they can leave the nest. This will help you a little bit tell the difference. I made the grid on the suet feeder the same, so you can see the 2 birds side by side. I put the red line, so okay, see where the red line is? The lower red line is the bottom of the downy, and the upper red line at the top of the downy. You see the difference, see how much larger the hairy woodpecker is. Next thing to look for is the bill. Look how big the bill is on the hairy woodpecker. It's a very big, stout bill, where the downy woodpecker has got a tiny little dainty bill on it. So that's another thing to look for. The last thing to look for is in this little square in the bottom. If you look at this guy on the tail, he's got black striping on his tail. The downy woodpecker will have black striping on his tail, and the hairy woodpecker will not. Another very common woodpecker is the red-bellied woodpecker. The red-bellied woodpecker, I always have people come and tell me, I got red-headed woodpeckers in my yard. Now you've got red-bellied woodpeckers in your yard. Red-headed woodpeckers are here, but they're extremely rare. And you know because their entire head is fire engine red. This guy's got a red head, but not the whole head. The red belly is named because he's got a red stripe down the center of his belly, but it's very hard to see if he's not standing in just the right position. The red-bellied woodpecker is a southern bird. This chart here shows you that in the breeding bird atlas, they did a breeding bird atlas in 1983 through 1989, and the yellows and the greens are where they found red-bellied woodpeckers. And then they did another one in 2004 and 2009, so that's 20 years. And the blue is where it was found only in the 2004 to 2009 period. So you can see it's spread quite a distance north. Another one is the northern flicker, also called yellow-shafted flicker. If you look at this little tail feather sticking out right here, you can see the yellow line through it. That's the shaft. That's what gives it its name. When they're flying, their wings are yellow underneath. Their only difference between the male and the female is this is a male. He's got that black spot on his face. The female does not have the black spot on the face. Otherwise, they look identical. The northern flicker's favorite food is ants, so you often find this woodpecker actually on the ground, poking around on the ground eating ants. Okay, hope you're not bored yet. We got a whole bunch of other common birds that many people know. A lot of people know the mourning dove with his howl like whoo. So everyone thinks he's got an owl when they hear that. The mourning dove is one of the other birds that does not feed its babies insects. It feeds it crop milk. It does that for 3 days, and after 3 days, it's go out and start finding your own seeds, because it seeds and grains exclusively. It's throw up. It's something they eat the seeds, they grind it all up and turn it into a milk that they can, in their crop, this is a crop when you lay inside, it's like a throat of the bird, and then they just feed it to the baby. Everyone knows the blue jay, a big noisy bird that hangs around the yard, a very attractive bird. He's got a large bill. He's a very eclectic eater. He eats everything from bird eggs, baby birds, insects, seeds and nuts, up to the size of an acorn. As a matter of fact, it used to be thought that squirrels would spread oak forests. Actually, they discovered that the blue jay allows the forest to migrate faster than the squirrel does, because the blue jay can also bury the acorns. And it'll take it further away and bury it further away, so when it comes out, the trees are now further away from the forest, and the forest actually moves faster as it moves around. Everyone knows the American robin. The American robin, old robin redbreast. He's actually a thrush. He's in the thrush family. Everyone thinks of him as a harbinger of spring, right? Yeah, he's not. He's here all year long. They do migrate, but they stay in this area all year long. The reason you see him in spring is because his favorite food is worms. And in the spring, your lawn has thawed enough that the worms come up. So now he's down eating the worms. Before that, in the wintertime, he's in the forests eating berries and fruit. Everyone knows the Canada goose. That's our pesky guy that leaves those little green landmines all around the streams and ponds. Another bird that everyone associates with migration, and yes, they migrate, but a very large number of them don't migrate, stay right here in Chester County, because they discovered that Chester County farmers leave all sorts of wonderful food for them. So they just stay right here most of the time. Now let's get to some ducks now. We have the mallard duck. This is a male, pretty with a green head. The mallards consist 50% of all ducks harvested in Pennsylvania are mallards. Okay, the mallard is a puddle duck. What that means is that they rarely dive under the water. Instead, they stick their head under the water and their butts in the air and they paddle around, nibbling stuff off the bottom of the pond, okay? Now that has caused a problem for them because when they're nibbling at the bottom, they're picking up some lead shot from shotguns that missed. And so there's a move afoot, some conservationists are trying to get the lead shot replaced with copper shot, which is not poisonous to birds. The female, she's very cryptic. She's just brown, tan, and white. And she's, of course, very good for hiding. The male, he's bright. He doesn't need to hide. She does. The interesting thing about her, she'll lay 50% of her weight in eggs and then start incubating them. And a week later, Mr. Mallard says, "See you later, lady." And goes off and hangs with the guys and leaves it all up to her to raise the babies. So she needs to be well camouflaged to keep predators away. The other interesting thing, I talked about the molt of the some birds. All birds shed their feathers because their feathers wear out with use. The strategy of the mallard is to molt all their feathers at one time. So for 30 days, they're flightless. So they need really good habitat to hide from predators. Once they do get their feathers in, though, they're very beautiful birds. All right, since we're on ducks, let's stick with ducks and other birds that are near water. The second most hunted duck in Pennsylvania is the wood duck. As a matter of fact, back in the 1900s, it was almost hunted to extinction, but it has now made a great comeback. The male is a beautiful fellow, probably our most beautiful duck, and the female is quite distinctive with that big white eye patch. The wood duck is named that way. You saw those two resting in trees. They will roost in trees, unlike most duck, but they nest in trees. They nest in cavities. You've probably seen wood duck houses in the middle of a pond. They've got a hole in it. They'll nest in those, but they'll nest in trees up to 65 feet in the air. All right, it's time for baby ducks to come out. They don't have wings. They're not going to fly. What do? They jump, plummet to the earth, and bounce a couple times, stand up, shake themselves off, and waddle off after mom to the nearest piece of water. Other ducks, more puddle ducks, are the northern shovelers. The northern shoveler, the male is very beautiful. The female is very cryptic. You can imagine if that duck were 3 feet further back, she would just disappear into those weeds. She is so well camouflaged. The thing that stands out about the shoveler is the great big bill that gives it its name. It looks like a big shovel. Now they've got a very interesting feeding behavior. They'll stick their head under the water just like the mallard, but then they'll swim in a circle real fast, create little whirlpools to pull stuff off the bottom and eat what comes up off the bottom. The northern shoveler is a worldwide bird. I've seen it in Africa, I've seen it in Europe, I've seen it in Asia. The ringneck duck is a diving duck. That means that it'll dive and go underwater and chase prey or go down deeper to get stuff off the bottom. The ringneck duck is a poorly named bird. You would think, I don't see a ring on the neck. I see a ring on the bill. He's got this big white ring on the bill. Why is it called a ring-billed duck? Well, when they were naming birds, they didn't have binoculars. They shot them and held them in their hand. And if you hold one in your hand, you'll see a very tiny cinnamon-colored ring around the neck. So, of course, they picked the most obscure feature they could find and named it after that feature. Now, the oldest known ringneck duck was 20 years and 5 months old. They know this because it was banded in 1983 and then shot, or 1964 and then shot in 1983. Another diving duck that's here, and the ringnecks, the shovelers, all the rest of these ducks really are winter ducks. This area is good for ducks in the winter, but the ducks, most of them, are up in Canada nesting. But anyhow, the bufflehead is another diving duck. He's a cavity nester. He will use the wood duck houses, but not around here, because like I say, he only nests in northwestern Canada. He's named because the male's got that big white buffalo on his head, and the female, she's only got the little white spot on her cheek. If you look at the bottom, though, he's really not black. He's quite iridescent, a very pretty bird. One that's often mistaken for the bufflehead is the hooded merganser. He's got the big white patch in his head. The difference being he's got the black, whereas the bufflehead, it went all the way around the head. With the merganser, got the black rim around it. The female merganser are always so cute. She always looks like she's having a bad hair day. Now here's another bird that dies and looks like a duck and acts like a duck, but it's not a duck. It's a grebe. It's a piebald grebe. And the grebes are actually more closely related to flamingos than they are to ducks. And the piebald grebe is named because he's got that black and white bill, which is pied. So that's a piebald grebe. And they're excellent swimmers. As a matter of fact, one time I was standing on a bridge in Texas, and this piebald grebe went zipping underneath me, came from the side, I don't know where, and went to I don't know where, all totally underwater. It's amazing how far they'll go underwater. Another non-duck-like bird is the American coot. The coots are actually the rail family. The coot is a solid black bird with a bright white bill that stands out at you. They make lots of little floating nests and then pick one. The interesting thing about this bird is they got an adaptation called chick ornamentation. When the babies are born, they're solid black, except they have these big orange feathers sticking out of the top of their head. They have those feathers for 9 days. The really weird thing, you'd think that would be bad because it would make them more visible predators. But mom and dad feed the one with most fancy feathers first. So the prettier you are, you're a coot, the more mom and dad like you. All right, another bird associated with water is gray blue heron. He's our tallest heron, stands about 4 feet high. They are usually pretty much alone. You usually see them onesie, on the sides of streams and ponds. But when they nest, they're communal nesters. As a matter of fact, there's a communal nest right here in Phoenixville. And you get 10 or 15 of these big monster nests with 4-foot tall birds in them, all in one area. It's really quite fascinating to watch. Our smallest heron is the green heron. You got an adult on the left and a juvenile on the right. You can see the juvenile is very plain and very good for camouflage. The adult is very brightly colored. They're much smaller. They're only about 18 inches, so they're our smallest heron. Another bird associated with water is the seagull, people say. It's not really a seagull because there's a whole bunch of different kinds of gulls. This is a ring-billed gull, and you can see he's properly named because he's got a ring around his bill. I'm not very good, they got it right that time. It's our most common gull in Chester County, and some birders would say instead of calling them seagulls, you should call them landfill gulls or dumpster diving gulls, because they're more likely to be around the landfill or diving in the dumpster at McDonald's trying to get a meal. Another bird strictly associated with water is the osprey. It's a raptor, a type of hawk, a fish hawk. It's piscivorous, which means it eats only fish, and they're excellent fishermen. They'll dive from great distance into the water, go completely underwater, grab the fish. When they pull the fish out, they always turn the fish head first, so that it's more streamlined when they fly up to the branch to eat it. All right, we're on raptors. Let's look at a few more raptors. First, I'm going to take a drink. Our most common raptor is the red-tailed hawk. You've got an adult here on the left and a juvenile on the right. Notice the juvenile does not have a red tail. All right, juveniles don't have a red tail, but adults do. Notice the thing to do look for on the red tail is this belly band. All red-tailed hawks have that belly band. It may be extremely light. I saw one in Longwood the other day, it was just tan. Usually it's a dark brown or black. The red-tailed hawk is our most common hawk. You will often, if you're driving down the highway and you see a hawk on the side of the road in a tree, it's 99% of the time going to be a red-tailed hawk because they like meadows with mice that they can chase, and they like perches. And so Eisenhower administration, in their infinite wisdom, created these huge log meadows called the interstate highway system with light poles on them for the red-tailed hawks. So that's pretty nice of them. He thought it was for us, I did it for the red-tailed hawks instead. And we got a juvenile bald eagle. Looks an awful lot like a red-tailed hawk, doesn't it? It doesn't look like we imagine a bald eagle would look like. The juvenile bald eagle, or the bald eagle in general, is a very wonderful conservation success story. Back in the 50s and 60s, hawk watchers at places like Hawk Mountain were noticing no juvenile bald eagles, which is bad. It takes 5 years before the juvenile gets its iconic white head and white tail. And so they're getting worried, and they start doing research and discover that DDT was making the eggshells weak. And when the adults sat on the eggs, they broke the eggshells, and no babies were being born. As you can see, this bald eagle is piscivorous. It eats fish, but it's also really omnivorous. It would eat ducks, mammals, and even carrion if given the opportunity. Speaking of carrion, how about this ugly fellow? The turkey vulture. He's got such an ugly face, that hairless thing there. But really, an amazing bird, a wonderful bird, in the sense that he does a great service for us. He cleans up all the crap we kill on the highway and takes care of it unless someone else comes and picks it up, but that's his job. The bald head is a good adaptation because he's got his head in the old blood and guts. And so instead of getting blood stuck in his feathers, it's just this bald head and it washes right off in the next rainstorm. Really kind of, a couple other interesting things. If you ever see a turkey vulture and you think you can catch it, don't try and catch it. Because the turkey vulture's defense mechanism is to projectile vomit at you. So you can imagine how bad it goes smelling going in. Imagine how bad it must smell coming out. The other really neat thing that they do, it sounds disgusting, is when they urinate on their feet. Okay, think about it though. Neat adaptation. Because if you urinate on your feet, you got this sterile, slightly acidic material washing all the blood and guts off the feet that have been in the disgusting dead animals. So it's like using hand sanitizer on their feet. So it's pretty neat. They're really cool birds. And even better still when they're flying. When they're flying, they're masters of the air. I love to watch the turkey vulture fly. He holds his wings way up, and you can see he's got it angled way up like this. And it's called a dihedral. And he teeters back and forth like this. He's catching every speck of wing, kind of like a tightrope walker walking on a tightrope. They're just beautiful birds to watch fly. He's got a cousin that lives here. It used to be a southern bird. And people used to get real excited about black vultures, but now they've moved all the way up north into Ontario. The black vulture's named because he's got a black head. Unlike the turkey vulture, who has an excellent sense of smell and finds its prey by smell, the black vulture does not. He watches the turkey vulture. And even though he's smaller, he's a little more aggressive. He'll often go in and chase the turkey vulture off and take the carcass from the turkey vulture. Be careful with the black head though, because turkey vulture babies have black heads. So there's other ways to tell them apart, especially when they're flying. This is how you do it. Turkey vulture on the left. Notice the wings. You see the light patterns on the trailing edge of the wings. Whereas the black vulture, the light's at the wing. Over on the fingertips, the wingtips there. Okay? The turkey vulture flies with the dihedral I was talking about. The black vulture will, but he'll also go flat. And he doesn't rock as much. He's a little heavier and more stable. He's a little bit smaller, so he doesn't rock like the turkey vulture does. The other thing to look for is the tail. Notice the turkey vulture tail is long. It's got a long tail, whereas the black vulture's tail is short. It looks like someone took scissors and chopped it right up. If you've got bird feeders and you've got birds coming in and taking the birds off your feeders, it's one of either this one or the next one, the Cooper's hawk. But this is the sharp-shinned hawk. The juveniles have a vertical brown streaking. The adults have horizontal reddish streaking. That's why you can tell those two apart. They're exhibitors, which are forest bird hunting birds. And so they're built with short wings and long tails so they can zip through trees and catch little birds. The other guy is the Cooper's hawk, and the juveniles got vertical brown streaking, and adults got horizontal red streaking. And you go, how do you tell those two apart? Well, this is one of the real challenges. One of the things I like to do is hawk watch, and these two birds are the real challenges for hawk watchers because they look so much alike. So let me show you some ways to tell them apart. Okay, well look at this one. We got a Cooper's here on the left and a Sharpie on the right. Look at the tail. The Cooper's tail is rounded. The Sharpshoot's tail is squared off. Okay? Second thing, note the way the wings come out of the body. The Cooper tends to go straight out, perpendicular from the body, whereas the Sharpie seems to shrug a little bit. So he's got his wings come up a little more like this way more often. Now the Coopers will do that too, but the Sharpie is more likely to be doing that. That brings out the other factor. The Cooper's hawk head is bigger than the Sharpshoot's hawk's head. And so when they're high in the sky, when you look at the Sharpie, he looks like a flying T. When you look at the Cooper's hawk, it looks like a flying cross. Now the Cooper is bigger, and this is about the size of a female Cooper versus a male Sharpshoot hawk. The problem is that with hawks, the female is bigger than the male. And so when you got a female Cooper and a male Sharpie, it's easy to tell apart. But you got a male Coopers and a female Sharpie, the size difference is very minimal. So you really go with the other things to determine which is which bird. All right, let's do some more common birds that are a little bit harder to find than the ones that are at your feeder. A belted kingfisher. We got a young female over here on the left and a male on the right. And they're one of the two birds that, even though they're sexually dimorphic, the female is more colorful. This is a young one because the brown stripe that would be below the blue stripe on her belly is not fully developed yet. If she were fully developed, she'd have a brown and a blue stripe. Kingfishers are excellent fishers, as their name suggests. You find them standing on branches over ponds and streams, and they'll dive in, snap a minnow up, take it up in the tree, and eat it. Let me back up a second. One thing about the kingfisher, it does not build a nest in trees. It actually builds its nest in the banks of the streams and rivers. It builds a tunnel that's 3 to 6 feet deep and can go up as much as 15 feet deep, and lays its eggs up in that tunnel. Another common and lovely bird, one of my favorites, is the pileated woodpecker. It's our largest woodpecker. Beautiful bird with that red head and black body. He's about this big and very distinctive when you see him. They used to be quite uncommon, but they're becoming more and more common because our trees are maturing. So our trees are getting big enough so that the animal can put holes in them. So if you see a hole in a tree that's 4 inches long and 2 inches wide, that's the work of a pileated woodpecker. Now you may have heard people call them pileated. Both pronunciations are correct. I just happen to prefer pileated. Yellow-bellied sapsucker is the last woodpecker I'm going to show you, and he is the only completely migratory woodpecker. He lives up north, doesn't live here in the summertime, only visits us in the wintertime. It completely vacates almost all of its summer habitat and winters from the Gulf of Mexico up into Pennsylvania and Chester County. They drill holes in the trees and then take the sap or the insects that come stuck in the sap out. If you have a tree and it's got a line of horizontal holes in it, about this big, that's the work of a yellow-bellied sapsucker. The last raptor I'm going to do is not a hawk, it's an owl. It's our largest owl. It's a great horned owl. The great horned owl is a fearsome predator. They've been known to eat hawks. They've actually been known to try and take baby eagles out of nests. But they really like rodents. They'll take everything up to and including skunks. Matter of fact, they're the biggest predator of skunks next to the RRB. Now, a much tinier bird is the brown creeper. It's another bird that's here only in the wintertime. It will vacate soon. And it's a really neat bird. It, like the nuthatch, is on the trunks of the trees and the heavy branches. But unlike the nuthatch, it will never face downhill. It goes to the bottom of the tree, works its way up the tree, flies to the next tree, goes to the bottom, works its way up. So you never see them turn upside down. If I had taken a picture from here, with that wonderful pattern on the back, he would completely disappear. He's an excellent camouflage. Now we got two different kind of kinglets around here. We got gold crown and ruby crown. You can guess where they got their name. The gold crown and the ruby crown. The problem is they don't always show their gold and their ruby crowns. especially ruby crown, he hides it unless he's really mad or he's trying to attract a female. How do you tell them apart? Well, look at the face. Note on the gold crown kinglet, it's got a white pattern on the face with a line over the eye. Whereas the ruby crown, he's just got a ring around the eye. It's a very plain face with a ring around the eye. Let's do some swallows. Let me take a drink first. Our two most common swallows are the barn swallow, and the tree swallow. The barn swallow here on the left is blue with an orange chin, a white belly, and a long forked tail. The tree swallow on the right, he's blue, but his whole underside is white. The tree swallow nests in boxes, so if you put out bluebird boxes, you might get tree swallows in there. And like I was telling one of the persons here earlier, one of the strategies if you get tree swallows and you want bluebirds is to try putting your boxes about 8 feet apart. The tree swallow is very possessive. He will keep other tree swallows away from that close box, but will allow bluebirds to go in there. So that's one of the strategies. It doesn't always work because you might get a chickadee or something else, but you can try that. The barn swallow is a worldwide bird. He can be found almost everywhere in the world, near humans mostly because he likes grain, and he likes to build his house is half a dome of mud up on the wall of a shed or a barn. Okay. In Greece, they have a myth about the barn swallow. It explains why he's got an orange chin and a forked tail. They say the barn swallow is the bird that went up, flew up, and took fire from the gods. And when he took the fire, it baked his chin and his forehead brown. And when the gods saw him flying away, they threw a fireball at him and singed the center of his tail out, leaving him with a forked tail. Another real cutie is a blue-gray gnatcatcher. It was a southern bird, but has moved north and moved 200 miles north in 25 years. It's a real cute little bird with a bad name. He's not really go out and catch gnats. He's really more likely to be found going up under leaves, picking bugs off of leaves. The eastern bluebird is a type of thrush and one of our winter thrushes. They are here in the winter. Those people that have bluebird houses out, they think they leave. No, they go to the houses and in the fields in the summer, but just like the robin, they're in the forest in the winter. Because like the robin, they change their diet from insects to fruits and berries in the wintertime. The male is very blue with orange and white, and the female, she's blue, but she's got a little bit more browns and grays in her. The bluebird's population was down 90% early in the 20th century, mostly because of the starling, because they competed for the same nesting sites. And so people got together and started doing bluebird houses and bluebird trails, and they've made a wonderful comeback. Our other winter thrush, besides the robin and bluebird, is the hermit thrush. They're here only in the winter. They nest up north, and they are leaving here now. It's just about out of here by now. The hermit thrush is easy to tell from other thrushes because he's got red on his wings. He's got a reddish tail. Then it wags up and down. It's got a heavily spotted breast, which doesn't show in this picture very well. So those are the features to look for in a hermit thrush. The veery is now another thrush, but it's a summer thrush. They're just starting to move back in here. They've got beautiful songs, a descending flute in the heavy woods. It's a wonderful bird. Not heavily spotted, much redder. Using radio telemetry, scientists have discovered that the veery migrates at an altitude of 1.2 miles and travels 160 miles in one night. And most songbirds migrate at night because it's safer. Our other summer thrush is the wood thrush, another wonderful singer. Obviously a heavily speckled breast. This is a bird of concern right now because their population is dropping 2% a year and is now down 55%. They're not rare, but people are concerned that something's going on with the wood thrush. But they're fairly common in our area, so you should be able to find these birds fairly easily. Okay, we'll do some mimic thrushes now. The gray catbird, he just arrived. If you have catbirds, you found them just arrived, and they come in large numbers. If you've got berry bushes, you better net the berry bushes because they'll clean you out. They're from South America. The catbird is gray with a black cap, and you can just see on its undertail cover right here. It's a rusty orange. It's called a mimic thrush because it does lots of different sounds. The mimic thrushes will mimic other birds. The catbird is the worst mimic of the bunch. It's hard to tell what he's trying to mimic. But he does a wonderful imitation of a cat, and that's where he gets his name. He goes, meow, just like a cat. And so if you hear a cat in the bushes, it's probably the catbird. Now, to tell the thrushes apart, the catbird does a sound. He changes the sound. He does lots of different sounds. The next mimic thrush is the brown thrasher. He looks like a large thrush. He's a reddish bird, heavily streaked breast with his curved bill, a very long tail. Now, when he sings his song, sings in twos. So he'll sing two phrases, change to another thing. Two more, change, two more, change, two more. So you can tell from the catbird because the catbird does one, he does two, and the mockingbird does three. So that's how you tell those three mimic thrushes apart. The mockingbird usually does his phrases in threes. Now the mockingbird is the best mimic of the bunch. He is terrific. He can learn up to 200 songs. He can mimic a bird to the point where even good birders have to listen and say, wait for the change, and once it changes, oh, that was a mockingbird, not a whatever it was. It's an excellent mimic. He can mimic car alarms, car horns, things like that. Fascinating bird. Sings it in the middle of the night. I had one that sat outside my son's room, sitting on the peak of the garage, singing at 2 in the morning. He kept asking me, can I kill that bird? And I kept saying, no, you cannot kill that bird. When they fly, they're very distinctive because they got that white wing bars. So you see the bird with white wing bars and white stripes in the tail, and that's the mockingbird. Okay, we'll do some warblers. We've got the very common warbler that nests in this area is the common yellowthroat. We've got a male on the left, a female on the right. The male's a jaunty little fellow with his Lone Ranger mask. The female's very plain. She just has that orange, or that yellow chin. The male and female, they can be found in pretty much any brushy area or heavily grassy area. And they're so common that in the breeding survey, they discovered that they think there's about 1.2 million singing males in Pennsylvania. So they're a fairly common bird. Another warbler that nests in Chester County is the ovenbird. He looks like a thrush, but he's only about this big. He's much, much smaller than a thrush. He's also got that orange streak through the center of his head. Now the ovenbird gets its name from its nest. It is one of those birds that nests on the ground, and it builds its nest a little mound with a hole in the front that used to look just like the old colonial ovens. And so they call him an ovenbird. That's how he got his name. Now, one more thing on the ovenbird. If you see an ovenbird on the ground and it's got a broken wing, follow it. It doesn't have a broken wing, but you're close to the nest. It wants you away from the nest. It's trying to draw you away. As you follow it, look very careful. Don't step on the nest. All right, but they will do a broken wing display to distract predators. Our other warbler that's fairly common nester in this area, and a very beautiful bird, and correctly named bird, is the yellow warbler. He's solid yellow, except the male, he's got some red streaking down his breast. The female is solid yellow. They sing nicely. They sing sweet, sweet, I'm so sweet. So you listen for that. And when you find that, you can look for them. They'll be usually near water. Find them early in the year because once they start nesting, they clam right up and they're very hard to find after that. Okay, now you can see from this guy's got a big, thick, seed-eating bill. He's we're no longer on warblers. This is a bunting. He's more closely related to the sparrows. They had to go bunting his name because he's blue. And he's a very pretty bird, except it's very hard to find the female. because she's brown and she does not expose herself well. He will go up in the middle of the tree and actually the edge and sing on the top of his lungs trying to attract the female, but she'll hide in the weeds and she'll rarely come out. It's very hard to find the female. She's brown instead of blue. She's a very cryptic bird. Using indigo bunnings in the 1960s, they discovered that birds use stars to migrate. They stuck indigo bunnies into planetariums and changed where the sky was and watched the way they tried to migrate. They also discovered they got an internal clock in their head. They know what time of night it is and where the stars are supposed to be at that time of night. And that helps them migrate because, like I said, they don't migrate at night. Baltimore Orioles are blackbirds. They don't look blackbirds, do they? But they're in the blackbird family. And we got two kinds of Orioles, the Baltimore and the Orchard. The difference being the Baltimore is brilliant orange, and the Orchard is more of a chestnut color. It's called a Baltimore Oriole not because it's from Baltimore, but because Lord Baltimore's colors were orange and black. And so he's named after Lord Baltimore, not the city Baltimore. The Orchard Oriole, the female is bright yellow, whereas the Baltimore Oriole female is kind of a muted orange and without the black. The Baltimore Oriole female builds a hanging nest, a big basket about this long, hangs out of a tree, and lays her eggs in there, whereas the Orchard Oriole builds just a little cup nest on the top of a small tree. With the Orchard Orioles, try and find them early in the year, because as soon as the babies hatch, they start migrating. They start migrating out of here by the middle of July. Okay, we're almost done. We'll just do a few action shots, and I'll save my voice and let you read them. You missed it. Tax day.
Okay.
Or earlier.
All right.
But most say, yeah, April 1st is good. If you haven't gotten out, which I just got mine out, they may have gone right by you, and you may not get them this year. But anywhere between April 1st and April 15th. April 15th is about the latest you want to get them.
Turn it on. Okay.
No, they stay. Yeah, they're here all year long. Absolutely. That's what they're really like. Salvia, and especially tubular flowers. Red and tubular, like things that they really like. But they will go to, when I first saw them in my place, they were going to a hibiscus. I had an hibiscus tree out there. So they were going to a hibiscus tree. Yeah.
What are your favorite places to go birding around?
Well, around here, I usually lead a trip in September to Black Rock. Black Rock's a really excellent place because it's along the river. We also do a trip up along Green Lane and up through that area, which is very nice. There's lots and lots of places in Chester County to bird. I suggest for people who are starting to start in your yard and then get with a group, because like I did for you here with the difference of some of the birds, and it's really frustrating when you start birding and you go, okay, I think it's a kinglet, but is it a this or a that? Did I look at this feature? Did I look at that feature? With a group, they can help tell you what to look for. And then when you get really better and more comfortable with your local birds, I would suggest picking a place and walking it frequently. I picked a place near I live in Cheney along the Chester Creek. I try to walk it once a week. I've walked it to I just picked up a new one today, picked up the spotted sandpiper today. But the nice thing about that, and why I recommend it, is it helps you really fine-tune your birding skills, because you're seeing the same birds over and over, the same environment, so you know where to look for them. And so that when something new comes in, it sort of focuses it for you and helps you find and identify the new ones, or at least say, oh, I got something here, I've got to figure out what it is. So I would suggest doing those things.
Is it gold in the parking lot the same as the gold in the shore?
Maybe, maybe not. Our most common one is the ring-billed I showed you here, but we've got herring, we've got blackback, we've got lesser blackback, we've got, there's about 20, 30 different kinds of gulls. And so, and then at the shore, you will often have laughing gulls that are just moving in. They've got the blackheads, so there's lots of different gulls.
But the gold in the parking lot is like
Around here, in this area, the most common one is the ring-billed. If you go up to the landfill, you might find some eyeballs in there, but they're going to be all hanging out in the landfill. Yes?
You mentioned killdeer.
Yes?
Knowing my own county, they nest on the ground.
Yes, the killdeers, they're a neat little bird. They're a type of sandpiper, actually, but they don't go along the ocean. They will, but they're really everywhere. Actually, when I moved into my house, the house next to me was vacant, and we were in new construction, so it was a big mud field, and I had killdeers nesting in that yard next to me. And their babies are the cutest things you'll ever want to see. They look like little ping pong balls with legs. They're really great. I love the killdeer. And they will nest in parking lots. They'll nest on stone roofs. I volunteer at Longwood. I do bird walks and other things at Longwood, and they had one nesting in their parking lot, so they had to put cones around it so they can run over the killdeer. So they're a cool bird. They used to be not in this area. They used to be a strictly southern bird, but in the, say, around the 60s or so, they started moving north, and they moved further. Yeah, they moved, like I said, they moved all the way to Ontario. They moved that far north. And so they're fairly common, not as common as the turkey vulture, but still fairly common birds, yes. No, there's no such thing as dumb questions, just dumb answers.
When it's so cold out, was this winter, how in the world did the tiny little birds on the sea
They shiver. Seriously, they shiver. They got feathers, feathers like you got a down, it's warm. But if it gets really cold, they just shiver. So they need that food to give them the energy for the muscles to shiver like that. And the moving of the muscles gives them warmth. And the little chickadees and stuff, they'll live way up in here close to the Arctic Circle and survive out there in that terrible weather just by shivering. They're finding grains and seeds and who knows what up there. It's amazing. It just, nature's an amazing thing. It doesn't like a vacuum. If there's food there, something will find it.
Hi, Michael and I are close by here. A couple places right in our neighborhood, Canal Park, Schuylkill River, Valley Creek, Pickering Creek Trail. We're actually leading a walk there on Sunday. So there are some places just right here in our own neighborhood. Now that we have the new slip ramp for the turnpike near Great Valley Corporate Center, the vultures that you see sitting on top of all light standards there, look at them. Those are mostly black vultures. If you go down Route 29 to the intersection of 29 and Charlestown Road, the new development that's being built there are often black vultures flying there. Don't forget to say something about the bird club as far as a way for people to
Find us?
that and find links to other
Yes.
bird activities and other sites.
Like I said, I'm a member of the Westchester Bird Club. We cover Chester County. We've got cards back there with our website. We're open to anyone. You do not have to be a member of the club to come on our trips or come to our meetings. Give us a test drive. If you like us, then you can join us. It's a little $15 a year. But anyhow, We welcome anybody. We welcome beginners. We'll try to work with you. It's not something bird clubs generally do well, but we are trying. So if you're a beginner, let us know you're a beginner and we'll try to work with you. We have a website, and the website's got very good information on where to find birds, how to find birds, how to go about starting birding, things like that. It's an excellent website, so I recommend that you check into it and pick up a card back there. It's got our website on it. And we're also on Facebook and what else? Something else. Yes.
Another question. Someone told me the birds you see on the welfare wire are usually a particular kind of bird.
No, there's a bunch of different birds using telephone. The tree swallows will sit on the telephone wires, barn swallows, mourning doves, bluebirds, robins, lots of different kestrels will sit on there. So you gotta look at the bird and figure out what it is. It's not all the same bird.
Which is this little seed that
Yeah.
yellow ones?
Like goldfinches. They're not canaries, by the way. They're goldfinches. Everyone thinks they got canaries. They're gold.
If you go, to the store and you buy that, will it come in basket this and it goes in?
And that's why they heat it up.
Because heat up and
They heat it up so they won't do that. Like I say, and it's a kind of a gamble a little bit. One, it goes bad quickly, so use it up fast. So don't buy great big bags of them because it goes bad quickly. And I had a friend who bought a brand new bag, and it was bad. They can't overheat it and kill it to the point where the birds don't even want it. So they don't, if they don't drain it out and throw it away and get another batch.
Do you think it's a bad idea to keep your feeders filled all year round? And
No.
okay.
No, it's not a bad idea. Even in the wintertime, they're getting only 10 to 20% of their needs out of your feeder. It's really good to have it up in the winter because when you get bad weather, that gives them a backup source other than what's in nature. The thing you may want to do is take it down and clean it once in a while. If you're getting big piles of seeds at the bottom, every once in a while let it go empty and let it sit empty for a little while. I like usually let mine go empty for about 1 day a week, and that kind of forces the birds to clean up the crap they left on the bottom. So this is just the way I do it. It's not bad to leave it up all year long. Anyone else?
Hummingbird feeders probably should be cleaned every 4 days or so in the summertime.
Yeah, change the hummingbird fluid
Right.
because it gets moldy, it goes bad.
Yeah.
Especially in the hot weather. In the cold weather, it's not so bad. In the hot weather, it can go bad fairly quickly. So watch and change it. Hummingbird food. Yes.
Do you ever check out that eagle or
I've seen it. I've seen it. Yep. Mhm. That's pretty neat. Yeah. There's lots of different webcams out there. Anyone else? Well, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening to me.